Okay, anybody can really answer this, but specifically I'm talking to veterans. I was playing around on the computer here, you know, cleaning out my hard drive and stuff, and I came across a video they took of fireworks. And I've never understood it, at least not that I can remember. I'm not saying you shouldn't go see the fireworks, shouldn't light them off and stuff, but I don't understand the allure. You're watching simulated combat. You know, fireworks that represent the bombs and explosions and stuff, the Revolutionary War. And I'm not saying don't go to see the fireworks and stop doing all this. I'm not saying that. I'm asking, why is that? Why do we do that? You know, why can't we just hoist the flag and everybody stand up, sing the national anthem, or, you know, just give a big hoo-ha, or whatever. You know, what is the reason we, you know, light off fireworks, you know? And to the veterans out there, does it bother you? I've talked to several veterans who can't do it, can't go see fireworks. It reminds them too much of what they've been through. They freak out. You know, granted only 2 from Iraq, but a lot from Vietnam. 1 from World War II. He said when he first came home from World War II, he was in the European theater. It was the first 4th of July. And, excuse me, he went to see the fireworks, and it messed him up. You know, he broke down, started crying and stuff, and he's never been back since. Up to the 4th of July. And now it's not as bad, he can listen to it, but when he sees, you know, and I relate to exactly what he's saying, because I remember this, when he sees, you know, the stuff shooting up, the tracer fired him, and actually I should find that video and edit it into this. I might not, because I can't remember if I had the camera going or not, but I remember sitting there watching, and, you know, they had a bunch of mortars, and fired them off one by one. You could see the, you know, the fuse burning, shooting up in the air. I remember looking at my wife and saying, it reminds me of the tracer fire during the first Gulf War, watching on TV. It's exactly what it looked like. The anti-aircraft guns firing. That's exactly what it looked like to me. And I've never been in direct combat, but if it's halfway like the combat simulator down in Fort Leonard Wood, yeah, that would definitely bring back a lot of memories. And that's what it does. Whenever I see fireworks, you know, I'm not talking, you know, firecracker here, or bottle rocket, stuff like this, but the big shows, that's what I think of. I think of the combat simulator when I was in basic training. That was 10-some years ago. Going on almost 11 years ago. 1997. Well, 10 years ago this year, coming up on 11 years. You know, that's exactly what it's like. Bright lights shooting off, just, you know, the machine guns firing at you, big old booms of the mortar and artillery simulators and stuff. And that was based on a World War II type combat zone, and I know it's a lot different now, but the sounds are the same. Explosions are explosions no matter what. And if I think of that, just going through training back then, what if a guy just came back from that action for live where he could have killed things? You know, and that's why I've actually seen you know, veterans groups who do not do 4th of July fireworks stuff. You know, I can't remember what group it was. It was when I was living down south in my guard unit. They wanted a bunch of people to assist, you know, parking cars and stuff like this, because they had a large veterans group down there, and they wouldn't do it because a lot of their guys had problems with it. Yeah, the parades, they did parades, stuff like this, but they wouldn't do the fireworks because they'd flip. One guy I talked to, he was in the unit, he was in Vietnam, and yeah, I talked to him a lot, and he said he goes to fireworks. He'll go because of his kids, but they sit in front of him because he'll cry. He starts tearing up, and you know, for a couple days thereafter, all he remembers is his buddies. This stuff didn't make it back, and did make it back, and you know, some of them, you know, got legs and arms blown up and stuff. Because that's what brings it right back to there. It just, and it bothers me that people aren't really aware of that fact. And again, I'm not saying don't go see fireworks. You know, go, enjoy it, you know, it's cool. You know, I do enjoy it to that aspect. You know, it's really neat to see the big old colors of light and stuff. And I explained this to my wife, and she fully understood. And she's sitting there, she's like, yeah, you know, it's exactly what it is. It's a simulation of combat. In a way, I kind of like it because you can somewhat relate more. The civilians can somewhat relate more. As I told my wife, yes, I told you, you know, it's exactly what it reminds me of when I went to the combat simulator. And I tell her, I'll imagine listening to that, and then possibly knowing every single time that boom goes off, you might be the one who dies, and still performing your job. You know? So, if you want, put an answer down there in the comments, down there, and, you know, let me know if you're a veteran or not answering this. Either just say it, or, you know, put a video on there, you know, Bob from Gulf War I, or OEF, whatever you want, Korea. So